High Mountain Lodge. Why couldn't we pick on somebody who likes to go to Palm Beach? But oh no. Out of the 10 top-bracket taxi evaders, we have to choose somebody like Giles M. Gilby, the snowbird.
Well, Kelly, if Mr. Gilby won't come to the Treasury Department must go to Mr. Gilby. Well, this job's like a vacation. All you do is ask Mr. Gilby one simple question. Where was that $875,000 I saw you with last year? The rest of the time you spend just breathing in this pure mountain air.
Natch.
And quit beefing. Relax. Just breathe through your nose and relax. And enjoy the scenery. Look.
Guests, aren't you?
Yes, I'm Steve Batcher, and this is Red Kelly.
How do you do?
Our instructor, Sven Warden. I'm Ann Watson.
You must be cold after your drive. Let's go down into the lodge.
It's not a bad idea.
It's a great idea.
Let's go. Not bad.
We like it.
Just a moment, I'll get your key.
Hey, who's the character with the shoulder holster?
That's Mr. Malone.
Say, that fireplace downstairs is big enough to barbecue an elephant in.
Yeah, it's a very cheerful room. It ought to be filled with bronze athletes and gay young things in slacks.
Oh, they're all out skiing.
Oh.
Here's your room, Mr. Bachelor. I'll tell Mr. Duncan you're here. When you're comfortable, come on into the jump room. The other guests should be back by then, and lunch will be ready.
Thanks very much. We'll be right along. Come on, Kelly.
Is the room all right?
Fine, thanks.
Good. See you later.
So long, Bud.
You know, Red, she's a real beauty.
Yes, but you're not as handy on those wooden planks as that flying Norseman. I think he's stuck on her.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Anyhow, romancing a dame like that's just like romancing a pair of skis. I've seen the type before. She's ski mad.
Where do you want me to sleep, here?
Yeah, I'll take a
all
minute.
right, I guess. Nice joint.
It's okay.
What's the matter? Don't you like the crowd?
What crowd? There's only 9 of them.
Looks like you have yourself an easy racket.
That's what you think, pal. There's one dame who can keep 3 bartenders working all by herself. When she walks through that door, I start setting up martinis. As fast as I make them, she drinks them. When I go to bed at night, I got a cramp in my elbow from lifting gin bottles. And her husband, he runs her no worse than a dead heat.
Oh, so she has a husband.
Sure, but he won't bother you none. He's too busy with his trick dolls to keep track of his wife. Austin Jeremy.
Senor Gilby. What's he like?
That depends on what side of the bar you're on. You know, you learn a lot about the big shots back here. Now, take Gilby. When there's a crowd, he's just nothing but money. You know, the drinks are on me, keep the change. Oh, a very fast gent with a buck. But when he comes in alone, he's very conservative, particularly about tipping.
Say, what about the others?
Well, Mr. Duncan, the manager, he's okay, and Sven. And that Miss Watson is a honey. But the rest of them. Gene, now, that's Gilby's masseur. What a creep. He lives on raw carrots. Then there's Mr. and Mrs. Morse. They got a lot of dough. He's just a little guy, very dignified, sits around counting his wife's drinks. And her. Boy, there is a dame. Strictly from hysteria. You'll see. Uh-oh.
Hello, who are you?
I'm Steve Batson, and this is Red Kelly.
How do you do?
You're Claire Jeremy, aren't you?
How did you know?
Saw you in a play once.
Oh, it must have been on a first night.
Here are your drinking shoes, darling.
The man with the other thirst is my husband.
How'd you do?
How'd you do?
Thanks, Joe. Go away. You're not paying for this.
We interrupt this program of recorded music to bring you a special bulletin from the Forestry Service. 2 slides have been reported on High Mountain this morning. All skiers are warned that the trails are unsafe. Stay tuned to this station for further details.
For heaven's sake, Eva, Gilby's an adult. If he wants to ski while the slides are going on, it's his business.
Here you are, Mr. Duncan.
Thanks. I wouldn't worry about Gilby, Mrs. Morris. He knows his way around the hills.
Hello, Duncan.
Hello. Mr. Morris, this is Mr. Kelly.
How do you do?
How are you?
What are you drinking, Mr. Kelly?
Bourbon.
Soda or water?
No, just give it to me.
I said soda or water.
Water, yeah. You said soda or water.
Joe knows you're new here. Most of us take it with soda.
Yeah, I know, but...
Did you want ginger ale?
no, just give it to me straight.
Take it over there.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Can I fix some of this for you?
Yes, thanks. No cheese, please. Where's Malone? Why isn't he up here?
He never comes up here.
Why not?
Doesn't ski.
Who doesn't ski?
Nobody ever comes up to the jump room unless they're a member of the club or the guest of a member.
It must be very gay for Mr. Malone.
Well, the club's open to the public if he wants to come up here and be bored.
Say, what is his business up here anyhow? Do you know?
I wouldn't know. He isn't very talkative.
You can say that again.
Hello, Ann.
Hello.
Mrs. Jeremy's been telling me about your marionettes. I do hope you'll perform for us tonight.
I don't think we'd care to, under the circumstances.
Oh, I don't know, darling. It might be fun.
Where's Mr. Gilby? He should be back by now.
Why don't you go over to the Wailing Wall at the other end of the bar? Mrs. Morris is worried about him, too.
We interrupt again to bring you a further bulletin. The U.S. Forestry Service reports that another series of slides on High Mountain have completely blocked the automobile roads and torn down the telephone wires, breaking communications between the mountain and the valley. More slides are expected.
He's telling us.
We've got to find him. He may be hurt. He may be lost in the slide. But you don't care. Nobody cares. No. Oh. Oh.
I'm beginning to be a little worried myself. Perhaps Mrs. Morris is right. We should look for Mr. Gilby as soon as possible.
Possible now, isn't it?
Possible, but dangerous.
It's a chance I'll have to take. I'll be with you in a minute. Nice, homey little group, huh? I'm going out to Swan to look for Gilby. You better stick around and keep your ears open.
Sure, maybe I can get some dirt out of Joe.
Out of Joe.
The bird, he talks. He talks, I tell you. Ask me if I want a water or soda.
Stop clowning.
Ask anybody,
I said stop clowning. You know the department isn't going to accept a little thing like a slide as an excuse for us not getting in a quick report on Gilby. I'll see you later.
Yeah, but he still talks. I tell.
He's telling us.
Who's that character?
Oh, that's Sam.
Well, that's good. Who's Sam?
The old man of the mountain holds up all winter in a cabin under the ski lift. Drinks very much and skis so well that he makes the rest of us look like amateurs. I'm afraid that's all anybody knows about him.
Well, he sounds crazy.
He may know something, though. Maybe we better follow him.
All right. that Gilby?
He liked loud clothes. What happened to his face?
When did you find him, Sam? That's all right. Let him go.
I don't understand. How did he happen to be out here? I've seen men killed with the snow before, but never like this. His face.
Oh, forget it. He wasn't killed with the slide. Not unless slides are carrying .38 automatics these days. Now, whoever did this shot him right through the head. Then they smashed in his face to cover up the wound. And they rolled him around so it looked like he'd stepped into the slide.
He did a very good job of it, too.
He?
He or she, then?
No, on the contrary, whoever did this did a very bad job. As a matter of fact, so bad that it couldn't have been accidental. Why, nobody could expect this bullet hole wouldn't be found.
The news from High Mountain is still bad. Grave fears are felt for the safety of 11 guests and a half-dozen servants at High Mountain Lodge. No information is available at this time concerning the safe...
Gilby's dead. His body's up at the hostel.
Stop it! Control yourself!
I run to death, and death meets me as fast.
Isn't that touching? The servant faithful unto death. You'd never think to look at the big brute that Gilby treated him like a peasant slave. But he's no worse than the rest of us. We're all hypocrites. Death is so impressive, so final. It makes one ashamed of what one really felt about the dead.
Claire.
What's the matter, darling? Does my bad taste bother you? Well, let's be really shocking and tell the truth. I hated him. You hated him. We all hated him. And we're all quite pleased that he's dead.
What can I do for you, Copper?
You can show me your gun.
Why, Copper?
Oh, I don't know. Just happens to be my hobby, that's all, looking at guns.
Oh. I thought maybe it had something to do with the guy getting hit on the head with an avalanche.
Well, you know something about that, do you?
Please. Guys like Gilby don't die in bed or get killed by some force of nature. Except maybe by some dame with an ice pick. It was Bunk, wasn't he?
All I said was I'd like to take a look at your gun. Thank you. What makes you think he was murdered?
You heard what the lady said. He wasn't a social success.
Uh-huh. You got a permit for this?
Oh, sure. With me, what can be legitimate is legitimate. Besides, I hardly ever kill anybody these days now that I've arrived. This is just for protection in case my boys aren't around.
Mm-hmm. Like now?
Like now.
Speaking of social successes, how are you doing up here?
Oh, it's just a gay, mad world.
Yeah, I bet. You know anything about Gilby that might help?
You've been around long enough to know that boys like me never know anything about anybody. What kind of a gun was used on him?
A .38 automatic.
Gilby had one. A Colt .38.
Thanks.
That gang up there's too much for me. They've even got me warm. They're all about ready to blow their tops.
Sure, that's exactly what I'm waiting for, and I want you to be there when it happens.
Oh, now, Steve, by the way,
Since when did the blonde in the bar start making you nervous?
They don't. It's the avalanches in between that get me down.
I see. Well, I got to look through Gilby's rooms. Now, you get back in there.
I know, Steve, but you think we better...
Why, Mr. Bachelor, where were you? We've been looking for you.
Well, to tell you the truth, I've been lying down. Who's we?
Sven and I.
Oh-ho.
Oh, nothing. Mrs. Morris made a terrible fuss. She said you had no right to leave Gilby's body up at the hospital where he'd be cold and lonely.
Well, Mrs. Morris is a big girl now. Somebody ought to tell her that death is always cold and lonely.
She insisted. She got hysterical about it. Sven tried to reason with her, but finally he had to bring the body down to keep her quiet. He put him in a storeroom.
Sven keeps a mean secret, doesn't he?
I don't know what you mean.
Yes, you do. He told you that it wasn't an accident, didn't he? That Gilby was murdered?
Well, why wouldn't he tell me? He knows I didn't do it.
Just how would he know that?
For the same reason you know I didn't.
Anne, will you help me?
No, not if it means telling you about my friends. I didn't like Gilby, but I didn't hate him. And I didn't want him to be killed. He never did anything to me, except maybe to try and make love to me. And I suppose in a way that's a compliment.
Sven wouldn't think so. Sven's in love with you, isn't he?
Perhaps.
You in love with him?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, then I wouldn't worry about it, baby, because if you were, you'd know. You'd know it from the first word, the first look. Haven't you ever read any books? You know, there may be better ways to investigate murders, but I like this one. Now, never mind the others. What do you know about Gilby?
Well, there isn't much to tell. He had money, and he liked money. I think he must have been very poor once, and he thought money could do everything for him. Buy love and friends and power over people.
Yeah, for instance?
Well, the club. At first he had a thin time. Everybody ignored him. Well, it wasn't just pure snobbishness. You know how skiers are. He just couldn't speak their language. So he bought his way in. Took over the mortgage and fixed up the place. After all, you can't go around snubbing your benefactor. People began to accept him. And he learned how to ski. Of course, he had to have the best teacher there was. That's how Sven came here. You couldn't really like Gilby, but...
Well, you looking for something?
I was just paying my last respects to the dead.
You're welcome to what there is left. No face, you know. Seen enough?
Where'd you find the jewelry?
Why? Do you recognize it?
Well, sure, it's Gilby's. He always wore it.
Oh, he did, huh?
Oh, I was just going.
That's what I thought.
After you.
No, no. After you.
Are you all right?
Better than that, I'm even beginning to use my head. Come on upstairs. I'll show you how to make that jump club really jump.
The news from High Mountain is no better this afternoon, folks. 2 more slides have been reported since noon. Cut off from the world by uprooted phone lines and impassable roads, the lodge guests face a night of terror. Are they perhaps at this very moment clustered around the radio, listening for a word of hope, listening perhaps to this very broadcast?
Why do you always turn that off? I want to hear what's going on.
Sit down, Pop. You'll hear what's going on, all right. Just listen to him.
Just for the record, I think you ought to know that Mr. Kelly and I are federal agents, Treasury Department. That's just in case you mind our taking over. Now, this morning when I told you that Sven and I found Gilby's body in the slide, I didn't tell you how he was killed. You all took it for granted that he was crushed to the snow. He wasn't. He was murdered. Shot at close range by somebody in this room.
Well, that's ridiculous. Nobody here could have shot
Sit down. We've already found the gun. Somebody went to trouble knocking Steve over the head to get it away from him.
Me? Why, everyone knows that.
Exactly, darling. Everyone knows. So you'd be wise to stay away from other people's motives, dear. Everyone knows the old proverb about no fury like a woman scorned.
Why, you vicious, horrid, mean...
Please, lady.
In another minute, she'd have murdered me, too. Maybe she can plead in court that she was in one of these insane rages when she shot Gilby.
This has gone far enough. It's quite unnecessary to persecute my wife. I shot Gilby, and I don't in the least regret it.
Mm-hmm. Just why did you shoot Mr. Gilby, Mr. Morris?
He was a thoroughly obnoxious person, and I don't care to discuss my motive any further, if you don't mind. You have my confession.
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Morris, my boss in Washington is a very peculiar man. It just wouldn't make him happy to accept you as the murderer without a proven motive.
Why quarrel about motives when we all have such a good one?
That's so? What's yours?
Same as theirs. $500,000 in cash.
Put in it. That's a boy. That's a nice joke. Hey, what $500,000?
Gilby's. He showed it to me. Ask Gene, he knows.
Yes, and all cash money.
And I've got a couple of hundred says he showed it to everybody else in the place. He was queer about money. Always worried maybe somebody wouldn't realize how much he had.
I warned Mr. Gilby about flashing it around, but he always says he wasn't afraid. Not up here, with his friends.
I don't think we have to stand for this.
Oh, yes, you do. Now, you go on back to the bar and be quiet. Please. Murder may not be the Treasury Department's business, but this $500,000 definitely is.
Take this spoon out, Joe. Go on, get it. That's it. Give it to me. Thank you, Joe. You're a nice boy.
Can I have a little ginger ale?
Why, certainly. Have a drink, Gene. You don't look so well.
Have a drink. You don't look so well. You don't look so hot yourself.
Kelly, what are you doing?
Talk to Joe. He doesn't think I look well.
I told you before that's not funny.
Oh, so you don't believe me, huh? Listen, you hear that? Go on, Joe. Talk. That's right. Talk. Show this mug you can talk. Come on now. Come on.
I'm waiting.
See, there, I told you. You see, just before you came in, he asked
Now,
me...
look, pull yourself together and start looking for that money. Search every room in the place.
Is there anything I can do?
Yeah, you can keep Kelly company. I don't want any more accidents like the one I had this afternoon.
Aren't you going to do anything about Mr. Morris?
No, I don't think so. It's a fine murder, one of the very best. A couple of swell motives and a nice, clean confession. As a matter of fact, there's only one thing wrong. The man downstairs just doesn't happen to be Gilby.
It's not Gilby.
That's right.
Well, then who is it?
I don't know. All I know is he's smaller than Gilby, his hands are the wrong shape, and somebody dressed him up in Gilby's clothes.
But then where's Mr. Gilby?
I don't know. Treasury Department would like to find that out.
But you didn't tell them. Why didn't you tell them it isn't Mr. Gilby?
I tried to. What difference does it make? Murder is murder, even if you don't know the corpse socially.
I didn't mean that. Do you think Mr. Gilby killed him?
No, I'd like to find him, though.
Why don't you look?
No, if he's still in the mountains, he'll keep. And if not, it's too late anyhow. Tell me, do you think he could ski down the other side?
He's not that good.
Listen, Ann, I know you don't like me. Or maybe you just won't let yourself like me. But I want you to do me a favor, an official favor. Promise me that you won't tell anybody that the man downstairs isn't Gilby. And I mean anybody.
I promise.
Good deal.
Oh, Mr. Bachelor. Oh, Mr. Bachelor. Sit down and whisper to me for a while.
What you working so hard for, dear? Scared?
You don't frighten me.
Not even in my official capacity?
I'm not afraid, and I'm not engaged to be married.
Just married, huh?
No, darling. Not just married. Married for 10 years. There's a difference.
Not to me, there isn't. Pardon me.
You're quite a boy with the ladies.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you, what are you doing up here?
I had business with Gilby.
Uh-huh. What kind of business?
My own.
Well, now, let's just pretend that you didn't say that. Because you're just automatically tough with cops, aren't you? Now, what business?
Gambling. He dropped 20 grand at one of my places. I came up here to collect.
Afraid he might skip, huh?
You know more about the rap he was up against than I do.
But did you collect?
Sorry. That's all you get for now. Unless you want to start pulling out fingernails.
Uh-huh. You'll keep. You all will. From now on, you can sort of watch each other for me.
Make yourself at home, young man.
Sam, I want to talk to you.
No law again that.
How did you happen to find that body?
Just wandering around and there it was.
Just wandered around in the slide, huh?
Mountain's been trying to kill me for 20 years now. Ain't done it yet. Guess you won't. Ever did?
No, thanks. You got many rabbits
You
with
can't
that?
have that. Ain't mine. It's Eddie's.
Whose?
Eddie's. Eddie Hurd's.
Who's he?
Sorry, it's been staying here with me.
Where is he now?
You ought to know. Your lady's body out in the hotel.
How long was he here with you?
Ask your question again, young man.
I said, how long has Eddie Hurd been staying with you?
Be a week. Maybe two. Thought he'd come down from the club, walking. Spoiled the creases in his pants from wading through the snow. Asked me if I'd take in boarder. Friend of his. Said he'd pay me for it. But he said I wasn't to tell anything about it up at the club. Told him I didn't have no use for money, so they brought whiskey. Lots of whiskey. Eddie was a right nice fella. We did a lot of tall drinking here together. It's...
So long, Sam. Take it easy.
He's on his way up. I don't think he loves us anymore.
Uh-huh. You and Sven didn't happen to find anything that looked like $500,000 or a gun, did you?
Not a nickel, not even a Say, where'd you find that? I thought it was supposed to be an automatic.
No, this isn't the one that got Gilby. This, my boy, is the professional equipment of a gunsel named Eddie Hurd.
What are you trying to do? Crash the inner circle? Did they promise you could use that playroom if you were polite and didn't ask them any questions?
I don't get it.
Oh, yes, you do. I'm sick of your questioning. You know I didn't kill Gilby, but you're a cop, and you think like a cop. Get the guy with the record, and never mind the ladies and gentlemen, even if they happen to be guilty.
Ever see this before?
No.
Oh, sure you have. Belonged to a boy of yours, nice fella. Named Eddie Hurd.
So you say.
Uh-huh. Now listen some more. Eddie's dead. Yeah, that was his body you saw without any face, not Gilby's. Have you seen Eddie lately?
With a dirty rat. Dirty, crooked rat. Guess you think that's funny coming from me, huh, copper? Okay, I'm in the rackets. But listen, if I run a gambling house, I'm saying if. Maybe the suckers take a rooking, but my partner doesn't. If I'm going to lamb out to skip a rough the way Gilby is doing now, I don't get some poor slob who's doing a job and not bothering me and knock him off. Just so someone can find his body and call it mine.
Say it fits all right. Us coming up here to tag him, the wad of cash he was carrying, and if that body was identified as his, he'd be safe. Nobody looks for a dead man. He could clean away.
Sure, only how's he going to get off the mountain? Don't forget that the body was planted after the slide when Gilby knew he couldn't get down. No, let's go back. What exactly was Eddie Hurd's job?
He was watching Gilby to make sure he didn't take a powder before I collected.
Uh-huh. I hate to get back into that rut again, but did you collect?
Okay, copper, you win. Yeah, I collected last night. And I'd have been out of here today with Eddie if it hadn't been for the slides. That's what I meant. He had no reason to bump Eddie. Our interest in him was over the minute I collected. Oh, you want to see the dough?
No, that's all right. I may be losing my grip, but I believe you. Just don't forget to put it on your income tax. Now, look, do me a favor. Keep all this to yourself, will you?
No worry, I will. Oh, join me in a game of solitaire. Anytime.
You're not going to tell him the stiff downstairs isn't Gilby?
No, let them stew. All of them had motives for bumping Gilby off, I'm sure of that. But so long as they think he's dead, we can keep needling them, and they'll fall all over themselves trying to convince us they're innocent. The minute they know he's alive, they'll shut up like clams, and we can forget the whole unpleasant thing. Go sit by the fire with Malone. Boy, I'm hungry. Kelly, what did you do with that candy you got out of Gilby's room?
On the dresser.
Fine.
Well. Did you get him?
No, he got away. But we'll find him. All we got to do is look for a guy with a black eye. Good evening, Miss Jeremy. Where's your husband?
He's dressing the puppets. He'll be along.
You know, the last time I heard music like that was on the Jersey Ferry.
It goes with skiing. We always shottish up here.
May I have this dance?
Oh, I'd like to.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Would you like to schottisch? Just learned the word.
Certainly.
Haven't learned the dance yet. What's news?
You're the detective.
You know, I don't think your Norseman likes me very much. In a nice sporting way, of course.
Sven is very young.
Well, dear, I'm not exactly drawing old age pension yet myself.
If Washington could only see us now. Okay, Bob.
Thanks, Joe.
On with the dance.
What's the matter, Mr. Kelly? Don't you feel like dancing?
Sure, but it's a little tough to dance and pray at the same time.
Here. Take it over there.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I am happy to announce the Jeremy puppets. And if you'll drag some chairs out, you can all be comfortable while you watch.
Joe, come here. Watch the puppet show.
It stinks! It stinks! It stinks!
Is that makeup on his eye?
It's that 38 again. Same kind of wound kill that he heard. And guns in this room. All right, Kelly, line them up.
All right, everyone over there against the bar.
Ann, would you search Mrs. Morris and Mrs. Jeremy?
Really, Steve, I can't see
Okay. You do it or I'll do it.
This is outrageous. You
Sure,
have
Pop,
no right.
sure. Just get over there and put your hands on the bar. Come on, get going, boys. You too, kid. Get over here. Then I searched all the servants, but I didn't find the gun.
2 corpses in a cold room downstairs. Killer loose someplace in the house. Mountainside bouncing off the rooftop. Radio telling us we're still cut off from the rest of the world. And Ann not even talking to me. Me. It's a great formula for a restful night. Well, sleep well, Kelly. Good night.
Good night. Come out or I'll blow you out. Say, where'd those shots come from?
My room. Did you see anybody come out?
No, I didn't see anybody.
The stairway.
Who got it now?
Steve, nearly. Anyone go through the stairs?
Nobody came through here.
Say, can you play gin rummy?
Sure.
Well, anybody who thinks I'm going back to bed tonight is crazy. Come on.
Steve, are you all right?
I'm all right, honey. You go back to bed.
I'd rather play gin rummy all night than be murdered in bed.
What limit, gentlemen?
I'll make it easy on yourself.
$1 a point?
You handle those cards like a monkey handles a coconut. You can count me in for a penny.
Yeah, I'll take half that.
morning was bright and clear. It was reported that the slides had lit up. So, after the dangerous areas were marked off with flags, we burst out into the snow like prisoners released from jail.
Oh, that was wonderful. Should be getting back to the others. We're starting the ski lift.
Don't go yet, Anne. It's been a long time since we've been together like this.
All of 24 hours.
Seems much longer than that. Everything's so messy and spoiled with that detective snooping around.
Oh, he's only doing his job.
And it seems that his job means that he monopolized you.
Why, Sven, you're jealous.
Yes, I am. I wish that he'd go away and things would be as they were before. You do too, Anne, don't you?
I wish that it were possible.
Look! On the left! This time there's no mistake.
It's Gilby, all right. Somebody stuck him with a ski pole.
Getting crowded, isn't it? You better find Malone or we'll all be in here.
This was done with a ski pole. That's not Malone style.
Well, that's why it was done with a ski pole.
What makes you think Malone did it?
Because of Hurd. Malone wouldn't let one of his boys stop one and do nothing about it. That sort of thing gets around. It's bad business. Now, look. Gilby killed Hurd and Malone killed Gilby. That's logic.
Sure, it's logic, but it just doesn't happen to be true. Where's the 500 grand? Who killed Jeremy? Who tried to bump me off? Whoever did this is getting scared and trigger happy. An amateur, that's not like Malone. You'll have to guess again. Oh, don't cry, Annie. You know you didn't like Gilby. What's the matter? You're not scared, are you?
No.
You know, you're a big disappointment to me, baby. Sven knew about Eddie Hurd. You promised me you wouldn't tell anybody, but you told Sven. All right. Let's get on to something more practical. Have you got any high-heel shoes?
Yes, why?
Because I'm a fair-minded guy, and I'm not influenced by my emotions. Jean, suppose that you tell me about this fight that Mrs. Jeremy says you had with Gilby.
It was nothing. He didn't like the way I was massaging him. Anyway, she's a fine one to talk. How about the fight she and her husband had with Gilby? Ask her why they were practically on their uppers.
Come in. Oh, sit down, Mr. Duncan.
Just because I'm poor in that part of the social setup here, don't think you can get away by pinning the murder of Gilby on me.
Treasury Department has no class prejudices, Gene. I'd just as soon tag a millionaire as a masser.
The radio says that it'll be another 48 hours before they can clear the road to the log. They seem to expect to find us all dead.
Well, they may not be far wrong, Mr. Duncan. Whoever bumped off Gilby and Hurd and Jeremy isn't just going to sit around waiting for Kelly and me to nab him or her. I've been trying to figure out which one of us is the target for today.
I feel guilty because I didn't tell you this before. Last night, Malone and I happened to see Jeremy coming out of Gilby's room. He told us he hurt his eye and needed something from Jean's medicine cabinet to fix it. I didn't believe him then, but I did later. when I saw you wipe the makeup from his eye after he was dead. I'm afraid the killer didn't believe him either. You must do something, Mr. Batchelor. None of us can stand much more of this. Can't you get all of us together?
Into one big room and turn out the lights? That only happens in books, Mr. Duncan. A killer doesn't bump off 3 men without making a slip. You see, in real life, we gather information. We let this information arrange itself into a pattern. And when the pattern's complete, it invariably gives away the slip. Your information, for instance.
Mine?
Yes, suppose you give me a play-by-play description of what you and Sven did this morning when you went out to arrange the flags on the slope.
Well, we got up around 7, and we had breakfast together. Sven got the flags in the workshop while I went out and tested the run. Then I switched on the current for the lift motors.
If you're looking for jealousy as a motive, Mr. Batchelor, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Oh, I know how your wife felt about Gilby, Mr. Morris. I saw and heard it myself.
I'm afraid I shan't be able to convince you after my confession. But what I'm about to tell you is the truth. There was nothing between Mrs. Morris and Gilby. This is not the first of such emotional disturbances. You see, my wife's neurotic, self-conscious, feels she's unattractive to men. Our marriage didn't help her get over that, because I'm not very impressive.
Go on, Mr. Morris.
Every so often, she imagines an attractive man has fallen in love with her. It isn't necessary for the man to give her any indication of affection. She just throws herself at him. Needless to say, the man is embarrassed rather than attracted. For me, it's difficult for a time, but it always ends. Otherwise, she's been a very good wife to me. And I know these things are not her fault, that she can't control them. So I've learned to be patient with her.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Now, would you ask Mrs. Morris to come up?
Yes, sir. Please be gentle with her. She's very easily upset.
I will.
Thank you.
You were wearing these just now, weren't you?
No.
Oh, yes, you were. You wore them all right. You got outside my room and suddenly realized you had to get rid of them. So you threw them in your room and put those slippers on, didn't you?
No, you're wrong. Why should I?
I'll tell you why. Because yesterday you tapped your way into Gilby's room in those shoes to steal the gun that you killed him with. And last night you tapped your way into my room to try and shoot me with the same gun.
I didn't. He loved me.
He didn't love you. He wasn't interested in you at all. That's why you killed him. You were just pretending he loved you. You couldn't stand to see your little fantasy break down. So you killed him.
I can't help it. I do these things. I know they're lies, but I can't stop myself. When you said he was dead, I wanted to have something of his. So I came up to his room and I found his ring. I was going to say that he'd given it to me. Then I heard you at the door, so I hid in the sitting room. The back door was locked, so I couldn't get out. I couldn't let you find me. So when you came toward the sitting room door, there was no place to hide except the closet. I knew you'd look there. And I couldn't let you find me. I can't explain, but I couldn't. There was a cane with a heavy top. That's what I struck you with. Then I went downstairs and
No, you didn't. Then you searched me and found the gun.
I don't know anything about a gun. I came downstairs and it all came back to me again. I told them they couldn't leave him up there in the hostel alone. I was acting, and yet I wasn't. Sometimes I think I'm crazy.
And then you made Sven bring him down to the lodge.
Yes. Yes. I wanted to see him for the last time. I made a pillow for his head. Then I saw the bullet hole, and I knew it was murder. Then I looked at him again, and I knew it wasn't Giles Gilby. But I was afraid. So I put the ring on his finger, because it didn't fit him. And I thought that sooner or later someone would notice that and realize that...
Who is it? Mr. Malone.
Surprise. I have words to throw at you, baby.
I'll talk to you downstairs.
Oh, don't do that or I'll scream.
What do you want?
I told you. I want to talk to you about death and taxes.
The tax department's down the hall.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Batchelor's room.
Oh. And the death department? Don't try to kid me. You know more about this than you're telling. Bachelor's in love with you, and anyway, he's too much of a gentleman to crowd you. But I'm no gentleman, baby. Even if I didn't like Eddie, I couldn't afford to let someone knock him off and get away with it. And I liked Eddie. You're going to start talking now.
Find Malone?
No.
Look in his bedroom?
He wasn't there.
Okay, let's go. Where's everybody? Where's Anne? Come on. That's Anne's room there.
What happened?
He'll be all right. Kelly, you stick with him, and Duncan, you come on with me.
We must find Anne.
The tracks lead that way. I'm afraid we've lost them.
Smells like snow.
Malone.
That's hard luck. I'll see you later.
I can't go on.
Get up.
I can't.
On your feet. Someday, if it ever gets warm enough on High Mountain to melt the snow, you can search the hillside for $500,000 in a pocket somewhere on what's left to Sven.
If it hadn't been for Sven, I still can't believe it.
Well, he had to have money. Probably started out just to help Gilby and get paid for it. And then with Eddie Hurd dead, he suddenly saw nothing between him and $500,000 except a murderer who was supposed to be already dead.
I thought I was wrong. Until last night, he was always so gentle, so...
Don't think of last night. Think of him the way he was before he got started and couldn't stop. Because that's just what happened, you know. Jeremy put the body on that lift so it would come flying down like a vengeful ghost. And the Furies started closing in on Sven. He had to kill Jeremy. And there was me, Mrs. Morris, wandering around in her dream world, and you looking at him in a peculiar way. It was piling up on him. He had to get out, and he couldn't let anyone stop him. Malone or Jean or you. You see what happens when you don't pay your income tax?